All right, this is a documentation video. I'm going to read to you the project Style Guide for Erasing Human Dignity, Linguistic Strategies for a Broken World, an augmented book by Laura Zalia. Let's see if I can get rid of some of that glare. Okay, so it is an augmented book. We're currently looking at it through an iPad using the Layer app, and when you tap the screen, the Layer app scans what it sees, looking for a trigger image in the augmentation. So I didn't find any because the cover is not augmented. Anyway, here we go. This was written in 2018 in critical response to the current political climate in America, and it's being presented at the gallery of the Electronic Literature Organization Conference in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, summer of 2018. All right, so here we go. How to use this book. It begins with instructions. Each image in this book triggers augmented material. To access this, download the Layer app on your tablet or smart device. View images through the app. And it's also available in an app called HP Reveal, just in case. All right, so here we are. So I'm tapping to scan for augmented content. And here it is. Dignity, vulnerable, entitlement, diversity, transgender, fetus, evidence-based, science-based, wise to avoid, erased. Introduction. In December of 2017, a news story broke about a ban on 7 words that should not be used when applying for White House funding, including fetus, transgender, evidence-based, and vulnerable. While the story turned out to be less extreme than the headlines originally proclaimed, the suggestion to modify language, while less outrageous than an outright ban, still points towards the shifting of culture and denial, erasure, of aspects of both individual and collective identity, especially of already marginalized communities. So while Twitter speech is praised as effective business practice, what is slipping away in the background, unnoticed? Spanish language and LGBT resources are taken off of whitehouse.gov, for example. What does this erasure mean? There seems to be emerging the need for a new style guide, critiquing the protections given through language. And so, here it begins. Vulnerable. Dear language, I miss you. This is who I am, she said, but the words of specificity no longer existed. Simplify. Recommendation number 1. Use the easiest and most relatable word at all times. Words that are similar might as well be the same. In today's fast-paced, business-minded economy, there is simply no time for nuance or the risk of potential redundancy. What is the point of having multiple words if they mean, more or less, the same thing? Take, for example, weather and climate. Weather, the conditions of the natural world in a given place at a given time. Climate, the long-term effect of weather. Sure, they're different, but you must admit they are similar. Do we actually need both of them? Example sentence 1. Climate change is like totally not a big deal. I'll just bring a sweater. Well, that worked perfectly. Will it work in reverse order? Let's try. Example sentence 2. Weather changes are really freaking me out. I read online on the NASA website that this can lead to increased sea level, which can in turn lead to floods, droughts, and heat waves. I'm concerned for the... Wait, why are you looking at me like that? Yeah, I know it's supposed to snow this weekend, but that's not at all related to what I'm saying. Are you even listening? It's not a perfect fit. The speaker does seem frustrated. Perhaps if she spent less time reading, or if this information were to be removed from the NASA website, her frustration might cease. We only want for people to be happy. In any event, the primary distinction between weather and climate is one of scale, and scale, as we know, and scale, as we well know, is totally relative. Need I remind you that the, quote, biggest audience in the history of inaugural speeches attended the most recent inauguration in 2017, according to the, quote-unquote, alternative facts provided by the White House. Size, in reality, doesn't matter. Saying that something is the biggest and the best is more impactful than actually measuring. It would be easy to get sidetracked here. Let's stay focused. We were speaking of words and how efficiency and enthusiasm should be valued more highly than nuance or meaning or truth. Perhaps it's not a perfect fit, but let's face it, most things aren't. It's close enough, and that's what we're going for. It doesn't really matter anyway. Nihilism, destruction, words, they're just words. What type of protection? What were you trying to protect, anyway? Now let's close this section with a learning activity. Try conflating these terms and see how it works for you. Credible and retweeted. There are new guiding forces now, he said. Vulnerable has been replaced with strong. Evidence-based submits to profit-driven, true, big, grace, bully, civility, efficiency. What about beauty, she asked. What about respect? Honesty? I don't know yet, he said. Does it matter? Honesty has been replaced with not important. Honesty. Erased. Confuse. Recommendation number 2. Making sense is okay, but chaos gets better ratings. Metaphors, similes, analogies, and allegories are all ways of comparing different things to one another. They are similar, yet distinct. Let's explore this further through a story. For Tibetan monks, creating sand mandalas is sacred artistic practice. This art form takes patience, time, and careful collective effort. Once complete, the art is ritually destroyed. This is a sacred way of honoring impermanence. Sands are swirled together and released into a river, delivering blessings to the world. The above passage demonstrates metaphors, similes, analogies, and allegories. The above passage has been erased. Dignity. Stream. Stream release. Dakota pipeline. Oil. Oil, sacred land. Deities. Invoked. I'm sorry. Only one. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Access denied. System overload. Repeal patient collective effort. Replace cowboy. Repeal sacred. Replace rash immediate urgent destroy. Diversity error. Syntactical error. Metaphor error. Error. A grave mistake. Even if language is impermanent and imperfect, it once meant something. There's a way to talk to people, they said. A way to change what you say to appease. It isn't hard. It's true, it wasn't. It wasn't hard at all. I learned what they liked. I rewrote myself. It was easy, actually, and kind of fun, like a puzzle. We played it together, fell in love with the game. But then we kept playing. We forgot we were playing. We're still playing. What game? Silence. Recommendation number 3. Whenever possible, hit delete. No one will notice. Words don't matter, remember? Language. Repealed. language replaced, language erased. Evidence-based. I wanted to say, I actually said, it is worth noting that the word future begins with the letters F-U. We were speaking of the Paris Climate Agreement. Please, future. I don't feel safe, she said, but everyone just shrugged. Join the club. There's an element of grace, of expanded aura when I feel safe, but, she said, I don't feel safe. Void error, access denied. This is who I am, she said, but the words of specificity no longer existed. Silence, science, silence, I. Please don't go, she said, to the feeling of warmth and trust and pride in her country. Please don't go, please don't go, please. Future. Redefine. Recommendation number 4, if you don't like the definition of a word, make up a new one. The more you use it, the more others will too. It's quite simple, actually. Words are only as strong as their component parts. Letters can be let go. Roots can be uprooted. Meanings are mean. Let's explore this further. Accountability. An account. And the ability to run it effectively. Also see social media. Break apart. Recommendation number 5. Break up, break down, break apart. We can learn a lot about a word by breaking it into pieces. The word justice, for example, begins with just. And what does just mean? Not a lot. Relevant synonyms, merely, only, nothing more than. Calling something just simply means it is not too important. Acronyms. What does just mean? Not a lot. Relevant synonyms, merely, only, nothing more than. Just water, just steam, just ice, just ice. ICE is an acronym, a word made up of the first letters of several words in a unit. Citing sources. We were speaking of acronyms. It's important to know this. Acronyms work. Acronyms are terrific ways to shorten language and bring us directly to the point. For example, it is no longer necessary to say, I am deeply concerned about the divisions within our shared nation, the way we use the same words but hear entirely different things. Echo chambers, polarizing terms, hatred rather than discussion, the disappearance of resources within our culture of diversity, the very foundation of this nation. I am deeply concerned. When you can simply say, MAGA. As Ronald Reagan so famously wrote in 1980, Make America Great Again, MAGA. The Style Guide for Erasing Human Dignity does not find it necessary to cite sources. Rhetorical questions. Justice. Now, where were we? I'm afraid our love for excessive verbiage has thwarted us once again, and we were speaking of justice, were we not? We learned that the definition of just is not very important. We learned that ICE is an acronym, just ICE. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Of course, this is the division within the Department of Homeland Security assigned to find and remove people in the United States who do not possess the requisite passports or visas. It's just ICE chasing people down, separating families, making it impossible to live freely in America, because even if you're an American citizen and they aren't after you, they're after people in your country, and that makes this an unjust and unsafe place to live. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to trust that the policies in our nation are to some extent just? Dear reader, here's the voice you need to hear. The Style Guide for Erasing Human Dignity assures you that they are. They're just policies. What type of protection were you hoping for? Steal. Recommendation number 6. If you need or want something, just take it. Go ahead, act like you don't even know you're doing it. Better yet, act like you are giving while you are taking. Opposites confuse people. Very effective strategy. truth, beauty. The language, only the language, is a passion, a love. It's a love, a passion. Its function is like a preacher's. To make you stand up out of your seat, make you lose yourself and hear yourself. The worst of all possible things that could happen would be to lose that language. Toni Morrison, quoted in Spoken Soul, The Story of Black English. I'm afraid, she said, for the Supreme Court. Shh, he said. If you stop thinking about it, it won't scare you. A quote from Spoken Soul, The Story of Black English by John Russell Rickford and Russell John Rickford. As the African concept of Nomo asserts, spirits are conjured by the saying of words. Ancestors are invoked by the speaking of words. If our enemies can make us forget these words, and then make us forget that we have forgotten, they will have robbed us of our ability to honor and summon our ancestors, who we so desperately need now more than ever. What are we missing? Do we even know? I ripped some of the pages out of your book, he said. I'm sure no one will notice. Erased. Recommendation number 7 has been erased. Erased. Avoid. Legacy. There's a certain kind of pride, an inner peace, a piece of identity, to feel proud of one's country. Do you still have this? Check your belongings. Did you notice? This has been erased. This has been erased. Now let's talk about something important. Let's talk about winners and losers. The Style Guide for Erasing Human Dignity believes in duality. There are 2 kinds of people in the world, he said, winners and losers. There are 2 kinds of people in the world, he said, us and them. But I looked out and saw so much more. Colors and movement, beauty and light, nuance, difference, shades of in-between. Community, I said, but he said, competition. Dialogue, I said, but he said, we will win this. Win what, I asked. There's nothing to win. Win this, he said, and as we looked forward together, the this that he spoke of started to emerge. Language, of course, has the power to conjure. Language, of course, has the power to erase. I went outside and saw them, letters on the ground. They were addressed to me, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They made words, but the words made no sense. No sense, no touch, no taste, no smell. Healthcare, environment. What must be protected, redirected. Legacy, border. And it wasn't just out there. Even deep within her own mind, she could feel the new normal taking hold, creeping in. Borders, walls, redefinitions. Changing language is dangerous business. What was life like before this fear and controversy? And could she somehow escape, jump over, crawl through? Was it too late? Desperate, she turned to social media, looked to her community. Help! Cultural imperialism, voiceless sorrow. Is there a way out? Where do I find strength? Are you with me? Can we help one another breathe? And the system smiled, sent back a nod of resistance. Yes, it said. This has been added to your shopping list. And that's the end. Thank you so much.